Mr. Jacobs, we're ready.
May I have a motion to reconvene the public meeting at 7:45 PM?
Motion.
A second? I got you. Thank you, Kara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance collectively? I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Flag
the United
of
States
the
of
United
America
States of America.
and to the republic
Republic
which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Are there any board announcements that the board members have? We'll get to committee reports later on.
Not at the moment. None for me.
All right, then I turn it over to Dr. Pritchard for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Thank you, Board of Education. And I want to say thank you to all the administrators and educators, staff members, and community members who are joining us here this evening for tonight's presentations. My role here is centered on providing the strategic framework for our principals to do their work. And this is all part of a strategic planning cycle. Even though we are currently operating under the conditions of the COVID pandemic, we are still continuing to move forward, obviously with some pretty significant restrictions. But our outcomes and our aim has not changed. It may take us a little longer to get to where we want to get to. When you hear our principals this evening moving through some of their presentations, this is going to be a real good opportunity for you as a Board of Education to gain some insight as to how the work that we are doing from that strategic perspective is working its way down into the buildings and into the classrooms. And we're hoping that we're going to give you a rich opportunity this evening to ask our elementary school principals and their partners in crime, which is our assistant principals, whatever questions that you think that you may need to help you get a better understanding as to what your role is as a board member and how we can help them do the work, the very important work that they do at the building level. Mrs. Gosser, could you get the next slide, please? I'm not sure if here we go. So this is not something, this is this particular slide here. Obviously, there's a lot of information there, but I present this to you to let you know that this is an operating cycle, and that if you were to see where we're at in terms of our progress towards the strategic planning work, we're up to goals on the November 19th Board of Education meeting, which is about 2/3 of the way down. I'm sorry, about 1/3 of the way down. Excuse me. So we're well into the school year. This work really started last July. I'm sorry, the end of June with our extended leadership team. And there are certain critical points throughout the year that I think you all just need to be made aware of. And certainly interspersed in that schedule along that timeline are tasks that the Board of Education will be required to do by law, which includes budgeting, as well as all that very important subcommittee work that you do that sort of feeds that feeds this process, and is certainly derivative of that understanding that you have, that you need from our principals that help guide the work that you do. So again, it's part of a continuous improvement cycle, but there are legal requirements that need to be met along the way. Next slide, please. There are also, as part of this cycle of continuous improvement, we are looking at overarching goals that are measured by the federal government along the lines of our Every Student Succeeds Act indicators that we've used in order to help us evaluate or provide a feedback mechanism towards our progress in the following areas: school climate, graduation rates, chronic absenteeism, high school and academic readiness, and college and career readiness. We didn't make these up. These were prescribed in accordance with the law. Also we've interjected these goals as part of our goal setting process. Next slide, please. So this is mapping those ESSA goals to our work strategically, that strategic framework that I referred to earlier. Sometimes you'll hear me call these focus areas. For focus areas A through E, you should all be patently familiar with those now. And sometimes I call them lanes, although I think folks don't really like me calling them lanes because they feel that that term is too restrictive. But this helps define the area of responsibility for each of our cabinet members. Focus area A is Dr. Kulot. Focus area B is Dr. Lloyd. Focus area C is Mr. Brady. Focus area D is Dr. Tessick. And focus area E is Mrs. Coster, realizing that there's tremendous opportunities for staff coordination in and amongst our staff members. So, for example, for instance, it's not just Dr. Lloyd. It's obvious Dr. Lloyd isn't the only person who's working on, personnel issues. It really is a team effort, and there's an awful lot of staff work that goes into creating these goals and objectives. I've highlighted some areas in red: graduation rates, college and career readiness, academic high school readiness, school climate, reducing student disciplinary issues, and chronic absenteeism. I put those in red because those are the ESSA metrics, and those are also the foundation of the goals for our principals. I actually use this in terms of helping them guide the work that they do in terms of their action plan. It's also the basis of their evaluation with me. We do our goal setting early in the year, so we can establish some mutually agreed upon expectations for the work that needs to be done at the building level. It also helps to articulate that work vertically integrate that work with the strategic aspects of it right down to the classroom level as well. So it gives a couple of those are guide rails that we use to kind of align the effort from the boardroom right down to the classroom, and gives us a common operating picture. I put those in red also because there's an asterisk behind those items that will serve to be the four objectives of our principles. Why did we pick those four? Well, those are derived from Richard Elmore's notion of instructional core. Again, if it doesn't happen in the instructional core, it isn't there. If we can't see it in the classroom, it isn't there. So that's why we selected those four. We figured those four items accurately describe or can define or explain the effectiveness or the performance of our buildings, probably better than any other, and we probably better than any other indicators. We know this because of there's actual science behind it. And again, we refer back to that theoretical framework from Richard Elmore that describes the instructional core being that we're talking about student readiness, we're talking about teacher preparation and teacher competency, and thirdly, a curriculum that matters. And that's really where we came up with those four indicators and those four items. And you're going to hear more about that tonight from our principals. So I just want to make sure we're tracking on time. I don't see a clock. My office is like at the casino. We don't have a clock in here. So all right, so actually we're doing okay on time. Next slide, please. All right, that's good. So we are on time. So I did tell the principals tonight that we were going to spend, they were prepared to present somewhere between 7:45 and 8 o'clock tonight as a starting point. We've asked them to take about 15 minutes to sort of review the material that I put into your Board of Education packets last Friday. So you've had an opportunity to review some of that to see what their work is. And help you develop whatever questions you might have. And so if we give the principals about 15 minutes to kind of give us a quick overview or a summary, I think we would spend the remainder of our evening, let's say another 45 minutes to an hour, or as short a time as you need to have your questions answered or explore any topics that are of interest to you in those 4 objective areas. We want to make this really a board-oriented conversation. This is something we started last year. I know Mr. La Madrid suggested that the presentation should be more about the board questions and less about the presentation itself. So we really want to try to encourage the dynamic, the sort of Q&A dynamic between that dialogue between the Board of Education and the principals. This is the first time we're doing this via Zoom. So I'm confident this is going to be a great format, and this will be a productive evening. So that's basically how we're gonna carve out the time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to, I think Mr. Schließman. I see Rob Schließman and Mrs. Ramirez are here. They're going to be co-presenting this evening, along with Mrs. McCahill, who is our acting assistant principal at Cottage Lane Elementary School, and Mr. Galvin, who is also joining us here this evening, representing William O. Schaefer. So, Mrs. Ramirez or Mr. Schließman, who is, I don't know exactly how you guys have set this up.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So I'm going to start, and then we are all going to take turns presenting our goals. We work together K to 5 to work on these goals, and we have been very consistent this year, as we have in the past, but probably even more so this year just because of what's going on. So we are going to share the work that we've been doing at the elementary schools in these 4 goal areas tonight, as Bob just spoke about. The goals that we're going to talk about are things that we've been working on for several years, and it's work that we will continue to do and that we've been tracking and looking at for some time. But we wanted to start by saying that given the current situation, we are really more focused on the day-to-day realities of hybrid learning during this pandemic. So we just wanted to acknowledge that. And, that's really what the day-to-day is, though we are keeping these in mind moving along. Over the past few years, specifically Rob and I have talked to you about these goals, and we've also talked about things that are really important at the elementary school level, which are becoming really challenging right now. So I just wanted to share that because I think that you're going to see some of that, and it's something that day to day is very in the front of our mind. So for example, collaboration between students and staff, something that's always been very much valued at the elementary level and something we've worked on, has become very challenging, and a whole new way of looking at collaboration. Creating student-centered classrooms, including our classroom redesign. We've continued to do that work, and we'll touch on it, but it's a challenge, right? We're trying to create student-centered classrooms still in this unique time. And just building school community. There's a lot of things that we do at the elementary level to build school community: events, student leadership, choice, student independence, enrichment. A lot of those things we've really been racking our brains to figure out how we can either continue to do them or do them at all. So I just wanted to start with that. You're going to see some of that, and just wanted to preface the goals by saying that we are working on these things, but our day-to-day reality is definitely a little different. Rob?
Thanks, Karen. And I'm going to try to smile for everyone here. I just want to say hello. Thank you to the board. Thank you, Lonnie, Cara, Christine, Tom, and I think, is everyone out there? Yeah, maybe. I just want to say hello to everyone and thanks for giving us the opportunity to present this evening. We're excited for this opportunity. The four of us working together this school year has been just fun and exciting for us, and to be able to collaborate together tonight, it's going to be something that we're excited to share with you guys. So as Karen shared, you'll hear and view our building goals for the 2020-2021 school year. While we continue to keep these goals in our mind, our focus these past 49, tomorrow is day number 50 for us with instruction, which is really exciting. We actually have a class at William O'Shafer that will be dressing up as 50s Day tomorrow to celebrate our 50th day of school. But over the past 50 days of school, our focus has been to make our students feel safe and build back our school community. And we've said that from the start. We have shared with the board in advance 2 separate presentations. For the purpose of tonight, we've combined the 2 presentations, and Karen is sharing her screen with the board our school goals. So we will share the goals, and then each school and administrator will share evidence of what we are doing to support these goals. You're going to hear from Karen Ramirez, Lucia, who's the acting assistant principal at Cottage Lane, Brian Galvin, who's the acting assistant principal at William O'Shafer, and myself throughout the presentation. And then as Dr. Pritchard mentioned, we're going to leave time at the end of the presentation to answer specific questions related to each goal. So our first goal, we do have 4 goals that we're going to present this evening. Our first goal is to reduce chronic absenteeism by working with our attendance team to identify students who are chronically absent, both virtually and in person, and make a plan to meet their needs in this ever-changing environment. As you see from the evidence for our William O'Shafer attendance on the slide that's showing here, is that we have communicated to our families in both Spanish and English. We have created some welcome back videos for our families to know that what the new environment would look like. Thank you to Jen Citrola. We've communicated schedules, and we have resources available on our website for families to be aware of our ever-changing environment this school year. There are always ways to keep our families engaged and exciting about what's coming. One important piece of evidence to share that aligns the K-5 buildings is the creation of our attendance committees, which we started last year when we started this goal. We're in our second year of meeting with our attendance committees at both schools. Our attendance committee is made up of our building administration, our school nurses, our social workers, our school counselor, and our E&L teachers. And throughout these teams, we look at specific data to support our student needs to make sure that we're doing what we can to keep students in school. Lucia?
Good evening, everyone. Our first goal when we think about attendance is making school a place where students want to be. So here you see a picture of a school spirit day, music lessons going on in the morning in our gym, and a schedule, because as we know, schedules are so important for students, and it eases their anxieties coming into school. So we have schedules in school and also virtual schedules for the students to follow. Disengagement from schools is evidenced in our attendance and the data that we research. So analyzing this is of key importance. So in Cottage Lane, we have seen a slight increase in the past month for in-person and virtual absences. So our attendance team has been meeting. We meet once a month, and we've come up with a plan for each of these students and discussed how to communicate with families, which member of the team is going to communicate, and support the students in the goal of getting them into school on a more regular basis. More than last year, our plans are individual to each of the students' situations, because now we know that every situation is just so unique and so different. In addition to our attendance team, both schools also have a mental health team. And this team consists of 2 psychologists, our social worker, and our school counselor. The team has created a referral program for teachers so they can fill out a referral form, either virtually or an actual referral form to be handed in. And it's for attendance support and in the form of help cards. So then it's just another line of communication between the teachers and the administration, and eventually to the families and getting the students to school. So now we have Brian.
A really big theme this year, and that's what we really pulled into school climate. So within the area of school climate, our goal is to work with our school community and staff to help students adapt to the new challenges of school. As you will see in our evidence, we started this year off by filming virtual tours and hosting live webinars to answer questions that students and parents had. Since the school year has begun, both school buildings have sent out weekly communications to all families with any important information and updates. We have also continued to build on our sense of community by holding Spirit Weeks and highlighting special events each month, such as Start with Hello, World Kindness Day, Red Ribbon Week, and World Mental Health Day. In order to ensure that every student has the opportunity to participate in these events, Spirit Weeks have been held on consecutive weeks, and presentations have been filmed so that students at home have access to them as well. You're
Karen, you're
muted,
on
Karen.
mute.
Sorry. All right, first time on Zoom. So our class charters are first piece of evidence is the ruler program. We've continued to implement the ruler program. It's been a huge resource that we had that in place and that we can continue to build on that in this situation. Our class charters are something we've been doing for a couple of years. You see a couple of those on the left, and every class made a class charter with all of the students, whether virtually or not, and we visited every class to check those out and talk to the students about them. Our character education program, in the middle you see an outline of that. Our character ed program was put together by teams of people at both buildings, and we chose books of the month that really represented a lot of different diverse perspectives of students, as well as perspectives that we might not have here in South Orangetown to bring those perspectives into our kids. We also have members serving on the Equity Coalition for the district. So that's been a great initiative that's been started and being run by Dr. Lloyd and some other central office members. And we have teachers from both buildings on that coalition. And finally, we have a picture here from our Halloween parade. We know the big part of school climate is creating events at the schools that the kids are interested in and really help them feel connected to school. And both Schaefer and Cottage Lane were able to do that on Halloween. And it was a lot of fun to see the kids at school having a good time and being able to dress up. And it was a nice community builder for us. So now Rob is going to talk. Oh no, Lucia is going to talk about academic readiness.
So for our goal of academic readiness, we will develop an understanding of where students are as learners and what they need to do in order to succeed in this unique learning environment, specifically the students who are moving on from second into third grade, and then our fifth graders moving on to middle school. Rob's just going to talk about some of the academic readiness they're doing in Schaefer, and then I will talk about what's going on in Cottage Lane.
Thanks, Lucia. Unmuted. Rob again here, everyone. Thanks for handing it off. As you guys can see, we keep flip-flopping back and forth. So here's a William O. Schaefer slide, and then we'll go back to a Cottage Lane slide. We have 6 photos here, just really representing the work we're doing. Just for everyone's sake, the photo on the top left was taken pre-pandemic. So you do see people with their masks off in close quarters, but our data teams now are really working via Zoom. We've continued to work with our data teams. That's them at William O. Schaefer, and you see Lucia and Brian there hard at work last year in February before we transitioned to Zoom. But as you can see in our evidence, we are using new technology platforms to support our student needs. This includes a shift from our FMP to Teachers College running records, and that really supports the shift that we made about 8 years ago to Teachers College reading and writing program. And that running records is assessing students' reading levels. While we've made some adjustments this year based on our 5 to 6 month layoff and our pandemic, we've transitioned to this because it is a digital resource, and our ELA coach, Ms. Christy Nadler, has trained our staff both at William O. Schaefer and Cottage Lane. You'll also see in the photo some evidence of STAR data assessments. We know we love data out there and our team at work. This helps us to identify strengths and weaknesses and compare this year's data to previous years to identify any new potential areas of needs. And I'd like to share that we have run the STAR data at both William O. Schaefer and Cottage Lane, and we are looking at that data currently right now. So although our curriculum is strong, this pandemic has really pushed us to rethink how students are assessed and make us think about our grade level standards. So we're really having continuous conversations with our grade team leaders, with our grade teams, and continuously corresponding with our from building to building. Lucia?
I just want to give a shout out to Jeannie Corcoran and our technology leaders who have helped us so much analyze the data from the STAR assessments. That was very helpful and eye-opening for all of us. So shout out to them. And I'm going to talk about some of the tools and supports that have been provided to students and to teachers during this unique learning time. As we all know, hybrid learning has been a huge shift for our students and our teachers, and we're so proud of the efforts made by our instructional coaches and the resources that are made available to our students and teachers. The pictures you see here are examples of virtual resources for students. That first one is a virtual resource for students. The second picture, you see an RTI teacher aligning curriculum for a student. And the last is a teacher using technology as a tool in the classroom. Some of the virtual resources that we have for students, we're using Google Classroom. Some of our K2 teachers are using the Seesaw program. We're using Kami, Mayan, many math manipulatives that our fabulous math teachers have found. Our math coach has found these digital math manipulatives, and we also have digital libraries for students. And our teachers have been provided, although we're not going anywhere for professional development, we are finding so much strength in the professionals that we work with every day. And some of the professional development that the teachers have received, they've had professional development with the coaches through Brian Kulat's office. We are using IDE and our IDE consultants. We have grade team leaders who we as an administrative team meet with and talk about the needs of each grade, and we figure out ways to get them the professional development that they need. And then also in our team meetings, our grade levels meet twice a week, and they're in-house sharing the best practices at their meetings. So sharing things that they're doing in their classrooms that's really working, especially in this unique hybrid learning environment. So now we have Karen. She's going to talk about our next goal.
So our next goal is around college and career readiness. Our goal is to provide enrichment to address college and career readiness for our K-5 learners. And Brian's going to start off with William O'Shafer.
Now, I know when we think of college and career readiness and William O'Shafer at first, it's sometimes hard to conceptualize for our youngest students, but with our youngest students, our main focus really is to begin to introduce them and start conversations about the different career and educational paths that are possible. We accomplish this through many different ways. And if you look at the pictures, you can see we do have our school counselor who pushes in and runs lessons that teaches students about different careers that are out there. We also have our summer STEAM camp that has been running for multiple years. And this is one of the first times that we actually ran our literacy camp over the summer. This was a new initiative and it was really successful. And you can see pictures of the kids from STEAM camp and from the literacy camp on the slide. We are also looking at the different career books that have been in our library by auditing the books that we have and seeing what additional books we may need so we can expose our students to as many different careers as possible. Last year, Cottage Lane also held a college spirit day, which we are looking to expand to K-5 this year. So we're going to look to have students and staff members wear their colleges or have students wear their favorite colleges or universities so we can start some of those conversations. We have also explored different virtual modalities to continue to expose our students to various careers, such as interviewing members from our community about their career and the path that they took there. So if anyone in the board would be interested, please let us know and we may be reaching out to you so that you guys could be interviewed and we can continue to pass on your career knowledge and the path that you took there to our youngest students.
At Cottage Lane and at William O'Shafer, we're looking at student leadership opportunities as one way to give our students enrichment opportunities and get them, ready for the next steps in life. So we do have student council type programs at both buildings and continuing to look at ways. Last year we had trash troopers and we had different student leadership opportunities that we're trying to figure out how to make work in this situation. We have had student-led assemblies, though recorded and pushed out. We have been able to continue to do that this year. Monthly challenges are happening. That's what you see in the middle there. We have had the If I Were President challenge going on, and I know in grade 1, they have an engineering challenge program that's being offered to every student with Mrs. Courtwright. So we are trying really hard to continue to offer those challenges in school and to students who are not in school so that they can participate. With what you see on the right is a student playing one of the games that has been offered by our math RTI teachers. So we made a decision at Cottage Lane this year to use our math RTI teachers to really push out math enrichment. And what I mean by that is it's not just challenging math, it's really math that's engaging and that kids are really enjoying and wanting to do. So we've gotten some puzzles, through Greg Tang Math, and Kim Guzas and Helen Scala, who are our math RTI teachers, are going into every classroom, and we're really looking at RTI differently. Everybody missed a little bit of math instruction given what's going on, so it's a little hard to determine a subset of kids that would need something really specific right now. So instead, what we're doing is meeting the needs of kids on different varied levels with math puzzles and enrichment to really engage them in math. We got one little boy said just today, Kim Guzas shared with me that he said, solving these puzzles is making my brain feel like it's moving. He said to her today when she was teaching. The kids are so into them. It's really pretty cool to see. So that's Cottage Lane, and here you go, Rob.
Hi guys, Rob again. That really concludes our 4 goals for this evening. So just to summarize the 4 goals, chronic absenteeism, school climate, academic readiness, and college and career readiness. We can't explain enough how hard our staff is working, how much support we have from everyone, every teacher, every staff member, from school aides to teaching assistants to our nurses, to every person that's working virtually, teleworking, in the building, at the district office. It's tremendous how this community has come together and how learning is happening in our schools. So we just want to thank everyone that's watching our presentation live and will watch tomorrow, I'm sure. But we want to also thank the board for your support. You know, these past 50 days, it's tremendous what we've been able to accomplish given a pandemic that we're in. Special thank you to Dr. Pritchard, the entire district administrative team. We communicate so much with them, our transportation team, our facilities team, our safety directors. And we really want to thank both our William O. Schaefer and Cottage Lane extended leadership teams. That's who helped put our presentation together this evening. We know we combined it into one for purposes of this, but we really created 2 presentations together, our staff and our teachers, for supporting these goals. And this is an all-in action plan for us, and we can't reach out to these goals without your support. And we really look forward to sharing the successes of everything with our board members. So thank you guys for giving us this opportunity, and thank you, Dr. Pritchard, for giving us the 19 minutes to present. Sorry we didn't keep it to 15. We learned from you to go over a little bit here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. I echo what Rob said. Thank you.
It's soft 15. All right, so listen, that was great, guys. So obviously the sort of the meat and potatoes of this is for the Board of Education to have an opportunity to ask questions, to I guess not only learn from you, to connect with you, obviously, because that's important, because they are very important partners in this work. But one thing I want to ask of the board, I think this is really probably one of the more important things you're going to get at it tonight is, as you went through that presentation and you review sort of that summary of work that the administration has presented to you, I hope that you have seen some of your work in that. You as board members, I don't think that you can really look at this passively. I think you need to look at this from the perspective of where are my fingerprints on this? Where is there evidence of my legacy or my involvement or my participation in the board. And if you can't see that, let me know, because I can walk around, I can look, I can find evidence of Kara Stepanian's input. I know where it is. So if you can't see it, you can't recognize yourselves in this work, let me know and I'll point it out to you. Or evidence or the prospect of work. I think it's really important that the board has an opportunity to reflect and recognize their contributions here, because we see it. I see it. We're thanking you not because it's we're being polite. We're thanking you because there is strong evidence of your involvement. And again, we get it, but you have to get it too, right? Because we certainly don't want you to think that your involvement isn't meaningful. And so having said that, Mr. Jacobs, I don't usually when we're in person, we kind of go down the line. But I can't really think of any particular order because this is all kind of new with Zoom. So when in doubt,
Alphabetical.
I'll go to, oh gosh, how about?
No, I disagree. I think the hard questions first.
How do you do it in William O. Schaefer? Don't you guys line them up like boy, girl? Boy?
No, we do not.
Do that anymore?
Don't say it, Bob. We go in order of hard questions first.
Oh, okay.
But yes, thanks for sharing that, Bob, and we're looking forward to some feedback and some questions.
So I'll take it and I'll turn it over to the board members, and I'll start with Mr. Henry. Just let him go first.
Sure. So thank you very much for presenting. It's very nice to see the collaboration between the two schools. And I appreciate the chronic absenteeism because my wife's a reading teacher up at North Rockland, and for her to get students on the Zoom calls is very challenging. So I feel your frustration on getting the kids to log in. At CLE, I was happy to hear that you're doing a lot of math RTI, because I believe the last time you presented, I forget which grade was struggling, but some of the scores last year were a little bit lower than you were hoping. My one question is, I ran into a teacher, a CLE teacher last night, and she said it's a challenging year, which is no surprise to anybody. But she said that most of the teachers were feeling like they could keep their heads above water, but some of the teachers were struggling. And obviously no names were mentioned. Do teachers know who they can reach out to for support during these challenging times?
Yeah, I would say that we're very lucky to have a lot of support at the from curriculum. Our instructional coaches are doing a lot of work to create curriculum and support teachers and pushing it out to their Google Classrooms and meet with them during team time. We have grade leaders this year for the first time, which is, thank goodness we had that put in place this year. It was a good year to make sure that happened, because they've been instrumental in communicating and supporting teachers. Obviously, our mental health team has done everything from, they did a presentation at our last PD day on, stress relief, what do you do about the stress that kids are feeling, but also the adults. So I do think teachers know who they can go to. I just think the bottom line is that some people are very stressed and some people are struggling more than others to manage doing a job that some of them started 20, 30, 10 years ago in a way that they've never done it before. And they're doing a job that some of them felt very successful in for many years. And now they feel like they don't know what they're doing sometimes, just like a lot of us don't. So I think the reality is that some people are dealing with that in different ways, and we're trying as best we can to support people, but this is hard. We're taking a lot of things that were just assumed as a teacher, that you go over to a student, you sit real close to them, you lean in, you read their work, you pull another kid real close, you have them talk, like all these just very simple moves that you do with 5 to 10-year-olds are just being rethought. And I think It's really hard. I mean, you're in a classroom and you see a kid kind of calling out to the teacher from Zoom from across the room, and the teacher is torn between the kids sitting in front of them and then running over to answer a question from someone on Zoom. There's a lot there. So I do think people are stressed, and I think some people more than others. And I just think that that's the nature of what's happening right now.
Okay,
And
thank
I
you.
just want to just add on to what Karen's saying. We, as administrators and leaders in a building, we are very compassionate with the teachers, and they have been very forthcoming with how they're feeling. They know that they can always come to us as far as how they're feeling and ways that we can help them. We do try to relieve as much stress for them as we possibly can while still moving forward towards the goals that we want to accomplish for the district. So it is a delicate balance. And we do know that this is a very difficult time, but at the same time, we do try to relieve stress where we can. So it is a delicate balance.
Thank you.
Christine or Kara, do you want to go next?
Okay, so I'll go. I would also like to express
Hi,
a
Christine.
sincere, hi everyone, sincere thanks really from the bottom of my heart, but also the rest of the board members on the Herculean effort that's being done by the administration at the Cottage Lane and William O. Schaefer, as well as all of the staff. You could see it also in the pictures and the presentations that you've provided. Especially, you know, when the students are in the classroom, and you can't tell from the mask, but you can see the expressions of the joy, you know, from their faces. So I had a couple of more specific questions on absenteeism, chronic absenteeism, because I would suspect that it's a bit challenging to differentiate between, first of all, especially when, you know, the students are remote, whether they're really absent or they're having some technical challenges, or maybe they're having an online issue that day, or a Wi-Fi issue, or even, you know, I heard Mrs. McCahill mention that you were seeing an increase in absenteeism in the in-person. So whether it's they couldn't make it in, but they're still online, they had to switch that day to remote. I don't know if that's what's happening. I mean, what are some of the challenges that are happening in registering whether the student's really there or not, and whether it's really, they really are there, but it's more of a technical issue. So is that an issue? My question, is that an issue, number one? And number two, how do you work around that?
Yeah, that's one of the issues. I think that there are a lot of different, scenarios, and you just named a bunch of them. So I think that's why what Lucia was sort of speaking of is that every student is even more so. Normally, when we've had these attendance meetings last year and the year before, every kid has a unique situation, whether it's a health issue but now, as you just mentioned some examples, we just added to the list of possibilities. So that's what we're using our social worker and school counselor to look into, follow up on, and try to figure out. Rob, do you want to?
Yeah, Christine, you would appreciate this response too, because we actually are looking at it on a data perspective, and our number is 10% at all times. And really, we're looking at absenteeism, chronic absenteeism of 10% or more from our previous year students. So we have a list of those students from years past. We're looking at that virtually and in person. And then we're looking at 10% or more this school year. So yesterday was our third meeting. I know the day before was Cottage Lane's third meeting. We made September, October, November with our teams. I kind of shared out what our team is made of, which it's really unique, you know, having our school nurse there, having our E&L teachers there, having our counselor, our social worker, you know, really helps us to kind of all come together and share. But yeah, there is connectivity issues. George Brady's probably listening in right now just to make sure there's no connectivity issues, but he's been really great about helping us get hotspots for those students that really need them. We've learned in the past week too, that it's not really a hotspot issue at all times. It might be an optimum issue because now there's a lot of families that are at home, not just in South Orangetown, but in other districts that you know, that has an effect on Wi-Fi and what people can do. But our attendance has changed too. We mentioned Jeannie Corcoran and her work that she's doing of how we're coding attendance and what we're doing. But our office staff at both schools, Tracy and Paula, and both Ellen and Trish at both schools are tremendous at reaching out to families, asking, you know, are we absent? Are we sick? Do we have connectivity issues? What can we do? We're fielding phone calls day by day, you know, to help us get into the Zoom. Our office staff has access to the Google Classrooms to make sure that they can make sure that the codes are correct and things like that. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing now. I do want to share our numbers are definitely a little bit lower from years past, but it is data that we're comparing from year to year. And with this change, you know, of being virtual versus, you know, and having that option, it's changed the way that we look at data, because, you know, some students started off the year 100% virtual and now are coming in a hybrid model. So that has changed. So we're looking at it in a lot of different ways, Christine, but we definitely appreciate you making us think about that a little bit more.
So that's an interesting comment that you made, Rob, because I thought I heard that the absenteeism numbers are lower. So that means that more kids are, whether via remote or in person, they're actually attending. Did I understand that correctly? At William O. Schaefer, but you know, I think at Cottage Lane they shared a little bit, you know, different of some data that's changed just in, you know, I think as our climate changes and what's happening, you know, in our country and in our state and different zones change, you know, our data is changing and families are making different, you know, determinations on school and things like that. So that might have an impact on some of our data as well. Mm. Yeah, I guess it's a general question. My next question I had was more about data, in that, you know, how are we looking at trends when we're dealing with this, you know, not normal circumstance, right? So, you know, you want to make sure that for absenteeism, for example, you want to make sure that the student is there, and they may be there, and maybe because of this unusual circumstance, the number may not always show us what we need to show. So, you know, how are you separating out so that we're getting the value of the information that we need from the metric, from the data? And Christine, great question. I see Brian Galvin unmuted himself, so I think he has something to say too. But Christine, as Bob said before too, you're really a person, and I hope that all board members feel this, that has had a footprint in how we look at our goals. And you've really driven us to really think about our data, you know, these last couple of years, especially, you know, for all of us. But we have broken it down to percentages. We are looking at it bi-weekly, like how many absences bi-weekly for certain students. We have a list of how many absences. We can run reports, you know, prior to each of our meetings. So we're contacting families, as we talked about our team. We break up, you know, our 6 or 7 person committees, breaking up. You know, first go to is teachers. Have they heard anything? Parents, have we communicated with our staff? So we're really kind of finding all of this data, creating it, and really bringing it together. Brian, do you want to add something?
Exactly what Rob said. Oh,
go ahead.
No, just kind of what Rob said. And I feel like that's how we're trying to really figure out what is the most important of those data points, is by really reaching out to the families directly to see what might be causing that change, or why a student who normally is in a hybrid model has decided was home for a couple of days, but was participating either distance or not on distance. So the best way that we could really do that is by reaching out to the families and the teachers that work with them. So this way we're not making guesses, but we're actually getting the information directly from them, because then once we get that really helps us develop the next plan that we may have to come up with. If it's something that a kid doesn't want to come in, that's one plan where maybe we're having support staff meet them outside to help bring them into the building, versus if it's a tech issue or anything else like that. Or maybe with everything changing with the pandemic numbers, some families now electing to switch from that hybrid back to the distance. So it's really getting that information, and we can only get that directly from them, and then taking notes on that, and then see how the trends play out over the course of the year. And at William O. Schaefer, Christine, we had started off at a little bit over 100 100% distance learners. We saw that number decrease. We were in the 70s, and now we're starting to see it go up a little bit more of more distance learners. So we're communicating, you know, attendance counts. Everyone's, you know, coming into the building by, you know, 9:30 or logging in for morning meeting, and that's the way our teachers are keeping attendance. And if someone's not there, teachers are doing a tremendous job of checking in with families. So, you know, we're thankful for that. I hope that answered your question. Yeah, it's I think what
gives me a little bit of, comfort is that you're utilizing the data. The data is a valuable tool, and it sounds like you're utilizing it, which is really, the whole purpose of doing data. It's
Jeannie
not data
Corcoran
just for
has a-
numbers.
Jeannie Corcoran's a data guru, and she's
Yeah,
been
that's
brought,
great.
she's amazing with this attendance work, and she's met with both schools a tremendous amount of time. So it's definitely been helpful.
Terrific. Okay, and then one last question. I don't want to take up too much time. Is what I saw a lot of great activities that you're still, trying to keep that consistency with Halloween parades and so forth. But how are you balancing, like, for example, a Halloween parade when only half the class is there? Does the other class
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so you had two. You have two of
twice.
everything. Okay.
We've done everything twice. We've worn out our Halloween costumes this year.
Okay.
But,
So any
I
of those
wanna do it again.
activities? Okay, that's good to know. Any of those activities, you're doing it twice to give everybody the experience. Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
All
we're doing
right,
everything
great.
twice. Yes.
I
Yeah,
feel like
great question now, Christine.
and everything we're doing, we're thinking of who's there, who's home, and who's always home. Those are like we're always thinking of those 3 lanes of students and how we can include them in everything we do.
Terrific.
And some
Okay.
kids got to go to both Halloween parades.
2 costumes. All right, thank you.
Okay,
Dr.
I,
Stefanian?
and my microphone has been a little weird tonight, so I apologize if you can't, can you hear me okay?
We hear you fine.
Okay,
You're
good.
Perfect.
So again, talking about the absenteeism, I'm wondering about the threshold for the younger kids on what counts as being present and absent, right? So if you're not there for morning meeting, but you show up for 1 Zoom, or you show up for 2 Zooms, or you show up for half a Zoom, what is the threshold there that's counting for a day present?
Yeah, connections count is the way we're looking at it. If we're connecting, it's really something if is counted as our attendance. If we feel like we're just checking in, but our screen is going black, or we're not sharing something, teachers are doing a tremendous job of reaching out to families, talking to our school counselor, our social worker, our school psychologist to reach out to those families to make sure there's a connection made. I think that's really an important piece. We really are reflective on our screen time. We get a tremendous amount of feedback from our parents, both ways. It's too much, it's too little. And I think it's, we're in a really good place. This hybrid model that, I know Dr. Kulat and the team really established together is doing really well with how we're balancing out how much screen time. And we're always reflective of that, Clara. And I've had conversations with parents. I've emailed parents just today and had a lot of conversations today of thinking how, we could start the mini lesson and then give the option for students to log off if needed, because we know parents are in different situations at home too. So, right, it's nice sometimes to be connected for the entire 40 or 45-minute period, while some students, at home, it's good to disconnect for after their 10, 15-minute mini lesson. And our teachers have done a wonderful job of thinking about that and thinking about creating asynchronous and synchronous opportunities for our students. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. I know I went off a little bit, but Karen, do you want to add anything?
I would just say that when in doubt, we're marking students present, and then it's a conversation and a follow-up. So we're not saying, oh, you weren't here for the 2nd and 3rd Zoom, so we're marking you absent. We're marking you present, and then we're having a conversation, and we're trying to make improvement on that behavior. The reality is, in elementary school, if students leave early or leave for a half day to go to the dentist, they're not marked absent. We don't take period by period attendance in elementary school. It's more about a case by case conversation and trying to improve the amount of attendance that we get.
I'll also add, we can see the work that's being done in Seesaw and in Google Classroom. So maybe they're disconnected for a period or time being, Cara, but we're able to actually see the work that they're doing, and teachers can log in and see when they've logged in and see the work that they're doing. So that also has, and sometimes it's changed. We have parents that are both police officers in New York City, and different time that work for certain families are what we're supporting at this time. So, but it is a great question you ask.
I would also just add that even in the regular school year, right, we have kids that come to school and don't necessarily produce a lot of work, or who are having time periods. So, I mean, all that stuff, as strange as this scenario is, those things happen. And we that's the kind of thing we're always trying to address.
Right. And so then that actually dovetails to my next question, which is about the work that is being produced. So I know that might be a little bit too premature to be able to really look at that data, but primary, maybe not specifically just the kids who are all the time home, but even comparisons between the work that's being produced on the weeks that kids are home versus the weeks that kids are in school. I just wonder, obviously I know that's something that you're looking at or going to look at, continue to look at, but is there any indication on where that's trending yet?
It depends on the student. Some of our students are doing really well at home, continuing the writing that they did in school and working independently. And for some students, certainly when they're at home, it's harder. And we definitely have seen that. It depends on the student and the situation they're in, which is why we've tried to bring in subgroups of students that we can fit as much as possible, because for most students, yes, they're producing better work when they're in school in a setting with a teacher that can support them. We do have students at home with in a good situation with an adult there to support them, and they're doing okay with that. But yeah, that's why we're trying to bring in as many kids as we can in those groups.
And we do understand all of our family situations, and our families that are 100% distance learning are doing a tremendous job of, supporting their kids at home. And, they're really great about communicating, what's happening and what they can do and reaching out. Our PTA has done a great job too of kind of creating resources and making themselves available to, support those families that are, 100% distance learning for reasons unknown and reasons, to those families.
Are you good,
Thanks,
Dr.?
Cara.
All right, so it's my turn. So based upon the initial comments, I guess I'm tossing up the softballs.
Correct.
Wait,
we're
Lonnie,
ready.
Lonnie, I didn't realize you were a Jets and a Mets fan.
I'm in my son's room.
Oh, okay, good.
I go with the family.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm just going to start off with, I appreciate the presentation and the creativity and the willingness of, the building leadership to, go off script and combine the presentations instead of giving us a presentation on Cottage Lane and a presentation on William O'Shafer. So, I appreciate that creativity. Also, I appreciate the collaborative work between the buildings and between the leadership team. By doing what you've done, you've demonstrated the collaboration between the buildings, which I think is, a key aspect that the Board of Ed always asks, how are we working with the students from one building to another building? And if, the staff and the leadership is collaborating like you are tonight, then it supports the concept that the students are being shepherded from one building to another building, and being properly, transferred from, one set of hands to the next set of hands. The other thing is I look at these goals, and you look at, I'll say, primarily, absenteeism, building climate, and academic readiness. And, in a normal environment, you look at these goals and you say that, I'd address these goals and focus on these goals in a certain way. And, because of the environment we're in today, really the way we've had to focus our efforts to achieving these goals, and even the college and career readiness, is off the wall. It's totally, unanticipated, unimaginable in terms of what we were planning for, what we've been doing in the past, and how we've had to adjust it, for the situation where we find ourselves in. And, I commend your efforts for trying to, focus on these goals and achieve these goals, dealing with, the situation we're in. A couple of questions I have is, you spoke about the STAR results and the year to year, comparisons, and it was touched on a little bit before, but how are we seeing the student growth, from the end of last year where we went to, totally remote to, the situation we're in now with the hybrid in terms of, the development of our students. And, we have the absenteeism and the building climate, which, how are we going to maintain our goals and our work as we move forward, hopefully back into a brick and mortar building?
Great question, Lonnie. So once again, support you being a Mets, Jets, Sun supporter, because I'm a Mets, Jets, but so last, our students just finished, our students take the STAR data test 3 times, potentially 3 times, maybe a little bit more per year. It's incredible. We're down to about, I hate to say this live, but we're down to about 6 or 7 students that are left in a building where we have so many students virtual that are taking the STAR data report. So if you think about that, 580 students, and almost all of our students have taken this, whether virtual or, in school with our tech teacher, Ms. Narkezian, who's been doing an amazing job of doing that. We just got our final report. We haven't even had an opportunity to look at it, but the numbers are so close, within 2 to 3%, and it goes both ways. Our numbers are a little higher this year in literacy, or maybe a little bit lower in first grade towards math, within 2 to 3%. So we're not seeing a tremendous impact at this point. I think we thought there would be a little bit more, but it's something that we had our first meeting this past week with our school psychologist, myself, Mr. Galvin, Jeannie Corcoran, our data specialist again, where we're really starting to think about STAR data. We talked to our teachers about it on Monday afternoon as well, to start thinking about what they can be doing and looking at the STAR data specific to their classes. So it's amazing data. Christine would love it. And it's just great to look at, to be reflective on, and what we could be doing in our classrooms. And again, it's making us really think about, not just as a school, not just as a district, not just as a state, but as a nation together, right? We have to think about how standards and how these numbers are going to shift a little bit, having that 5 to 6 month pandemic that we're really in, where students were disconnected. And some districts, are still out. We're fortunate enough in many ways to have our students connected as much as possible here. So I hope that answers your question to the best I can, Lonnie, but we're really looking, I wish I could share my screen, but I'm looking at the numbers right now, from 1920 to 2021, our numbers are very similar in early literacy at William S. Schaefer, from 58.6% to 63.5%, like an increase, of proficient students. So our numbers are here, and we have them, and we'd be excited to be able to share them with you once we're able to interpret them a little bit more. Karen?
Yeah, I same. We met with Jeannie, and she just really is going through all of that. I think for us, STAR has been something that teachers have looked at, but not as much as we maybe will now. We've had so many pieces of local data, and I think the STAR is something now that, as Rob said, we can give to the kids at home. So it's something valuable to start looking at now. I do think we need to keep in mind, though, that the data we're comparing it to, while it is closer than I think we thought it would be, I think because of, as Rob said, everybody in the country is in the same position, and it is nationally normed, so it is going to adjust. The situations under which kids are taking it now are just so much different than when we gave it in March that we need to keep that in mind. Kids are taking it home, especially, 5th graders taking the STAR at home. It's a little different than if they're taking it in school with a teacher. We definitely something we're looking closely at, but it is a little different scenario.
Yeah, Lonnie, we do see a difference sometimes with our at home versus in school, whether it be math, writing, reading. There's a tremendous, there can be a tremendous difference in, what we're seeing from home to school. But our teachers are recognizing that. That's new to all of us, and our administrative team is recognizing that as well.
Okay, and then my next question is with regard to academic readiness. As was mentioned earlier, we're trying to address, all the students, whether they're in the building or, at home or 100% at home. And, the example that was used was, like the Halloween parade, which, you had, one week and one the second week, which of course means that when you start doing, I'll say, duplicative type exercises, you start losing, teaching time. So, how are we making sure that we're still, covering the curriculum? And then, in terms of academic readiness, what communication and preparedness is going on now for these students as they advance to, I'll say next year, when we're hopefully back in a building where they may not have been prepared as if they were in the building this whole year. So how are we going to address any potential, shortcomings that get recognized as the students move from one grade to another grade? No, I guess no different than, shortcomings from, when we realized that they weren't, grasping all the material, from last spring to this fall.
Lonnie, I don't think we have all the answers to that right now. I think that's like the question of the world right now. And a great question and a really important question, and one that I think we'll be talking about all year and probably all of next year as well. As far as the Halloween parade piece, that was under school climate. And the reason for that is our goal was really to get kids in and make them feel comfortable and happy to be at school. And I think, taking 20 minutes out was, but I hear what you're saying.
I'm not faulting you for doing that. I comprehend why you're doing that. I'm just questioning the ramifications of it, that we, it's a big picture, so.
And I think in the big picture, time is being used so much differently. There's a lot of trying to figure out how to use time well, trying how not to be waiting for kids to come on Zoom, or trying not to be waiting for like all the hybrid learning pieces we've had to negotiate, trying not to waste time and trying to make the most of time, and how much time are kids on Zoom, and when are we moving into small groups? So that's a great question. I think there's always things in elementary schools that we have to allocate time to, whether it's assemblies or Halloween parades, or quite frankly, we have way less of that going on right now than we ever have. Visiting authors, like we've done a couple virtual assemblies, and we have our monthly assemblies, but as far as using time well, I think the big thing that we've had to focus on is the virtual piece and how to use our time well with that. And I think we're getting a lot better at that. But it's something we talk about almost every day.
I just want to add a couple of things that South Orangetown specifically is doing this year at both buildings, K to 5. We started what's called grade team leaders. So we have a grade team leader at each building. So monthly and sometimes weekly and bi-weekly. It's fun how it works now with all of the Zoom opportunities that we have. But we're able to get the grade team leaders together and really talk about what's happening from grade level to grade level. So really bring it in, and that's been a tremendous piece to bringing, for me, I can speak to K to 2 of like what's happening in K. The first grade team knows what's happening in first, the second grade and the K team know. So everyone knows what's happening. But I think what our teachers are really doing well, and it went back to one of our first slides, and I think that was our chronic absenteeism, is really our schedules are there. Today, for example, Lonnie, a team couldn't get on for connection issues at 9:45 for a morning meeting. They emailed their families, and then they said, okay, we're going to make up this phonics lesson at 11 o'clock today. So time lost is, really being communicated by our teachers. They're doing a tremendous job of making sure that we're connecting to the families at home as well as the, students, in school. So they're doing a great job of making sure that we're not missing the amount of time, and we're really well balancing the amount of screen time that we have. I hope that answers that question as well, Lonnie.
Yes, yeah. So my last question is really going to be more of a statement. As the board moves into budget development time, throughout the presentation, you really touched on, the use of consultants, the use of, internal professional development, the instructional coaches, the team leaders, and the mental health team, which, for the most part is notoriously a subject of, the budget development and the budget discussions. So I would just say that we remember, the presentation, and you may want to make notes now about how these resources were utilized, so that when the budget discussions occur and the board starts, raising questions about the necessity of the team leaders, or, the additional staffing, the additional positions that we put in over the last couple of years, how, they become beneficial and useful and are definitive need. Because, that's one of the things the board does, at budget time. It looks at the positions it created over the last few years and wants to make sure that they were beneficial, they're necessary, and, could the money be spent, elsewhere, or, in a better way. So I just, ask everybody to keep this in mind as we move to budget developments, that we remember the conversations, and, maybe you have to elaborate on it a little bit more in terms of, where was some benefits of what we've done, where are some resources that aren't being, used efficiently, that can be better, allocated to some of these other areas that you see. So it's a function of, as we're using resources, we should be evaluating, the benefits, or whether the money can be spent elsewhere, or whether, the resource needs to be improved for one reason or another. But, we all need to keep that, the fiscal aspect involved as well, as, and now as we move into budget time, it becomes, that much more important. So, but I appreciate everybody's efforts.
Great point. Thank you, Lonnie, for making us think of that. We're super appreciative of our mental health team that Dr. Tessick really helped us put together, our instructional coaches, and our great team leaders that Dr. Kulat helped us put together. So we'll keep that in mind, and we'll definitely have that for our budget time. It's a great thought to keep thinking. Thank you guys for all the awesome questions, and giving us the opportunity to present in a way we've never presented before. So we're a new team together, and we hope we've done what you guys are thinking. And as Dr. Pritchard said, your footprint's super important. It helps us really think about next year's presentation and our ongoing goals for this year. So thanks, guys, for everything that you've commented on. And I know Joe Onativia is out there, who's our timekeeper, and he helps us record some of our questions. So we appreciate him helping us write those things down to keep those things in mind. So thanks, guys. Dr. Pritchard, I'm not sure how you stayed quiet the entire time, but you did. I guess we'll turn it back to you.
It's the mute button. It's a feature of, it's another one of those unanticipated benefits of COVID, is that I can be muted by the board president now, although I'm trying to exercise a little self-restraint. So just want to say thank you to everybody for your excellent presentations here this evening. One of the sort of the unanticipated benefits, just if I could just caveat something Lonnie just said regarding looking at the value. Is it better to be smart, or is it better to be lucky? I obviously, as the head of a CEO of a public school, I want to be able to say it's better to be smart than it is to be lucky, because it's what we do. We try to make people improve their ability to make good choices and improve their cognition. But I think there's a certain amount of luck involved too. So speaking to Lonnie's point, when we reorganized, when we added some of these positions that that are obviously were new positions 3 or 4 years ago, we would have had no idea at the time that we were standing up the Family Engagement Center that this was going to be a structure that was going to be a food pantry, or a vehicle to deliver portable Wi-Fi devices to families, or to make sure that there was connectivity, or certainly Mr. Brady's function under focus area C with website platform implementation, and student management system, and data management and analytics. All these things that have been especially useful during this very difficult time, which I think has probably more due to luck than anything else. I think we're very fortunate that we were able to make some of these changes to make some of these changes to our organization, which obviously, has proven beneficial during these very challenging times. Although I don't think we ever could have predicted any of this. So again, but we'll definitely, Lonnie will definitely take a look at some of these, the value. And speaking to that point, we're gonna, as part of our continuous improvement cycle, I did put that timeline up a little bit earlier this evening. There will be 2 opportunities. We're gonna have 2 data presentations, one mid-year check-in, as well as a summative presentation in May, just so we can make sure that we have an understanding of our progress, to make sure we have that vital feedback. While you didn't say it, Lonnie, you did certainly, you were very nice. I know you weren't certainly speaking from the deficit perspective, but yeah, we're very, very afraid or very mindful of this sort of idea of regression, that students have lost, that they've regressed because of their inability to attend school in person. And, that's something that we're very mindful of. That's something that we're constantly trying to address. And we've seen some evidence that there has been some regression. Have we measured it? Have we captured it? Have we intervened accordingly? I think Karen Ramirez said, well, we don't know. But as we move through this cycle, we're starting to gain a better understanding as to what we need to do. So I'm going to ask you just to kind of table that conversation until we're able to come back to it in January. One, we're going to talk a little bit, obviously, about data as it relates to student performance, but also data as it relates to the budget development cycle. And we're certainly looking forward to the board's input on that. So again, just trying to tie all this together. So the board has some understanding about how this is, tonight is not just a one-off, but it's part of a larger picture, as some of you have alluded to, and we'll keep you informed as we go forward. Also, under superintendent's report, very, very briefly, I did get an email from our PTA. We have been meeting with PTA and Red and White leadership. When I say we, I say myself, Mr. Brady, and our Family Engagement Center representatives. Again, this is a focus area C and a focus area D joint venture. And also Jen Citrolo is there as well. She's done an amazing job in helping to synchronize that effort. And I did say to the PTA executive folks that I would be reporting out on their behalf because the board was certainly had expressed sort of a desire to kind of keep that going, to keep their partnership and their involvement at Board of Education meetings. So again, they provided me with this information. I did put this actually in your Board of Education report. I think I may have put it in last week. But we will put this in under board docs. But again, just for the public record, just so you know that in addition to Ms. Citrolo, Mr. Brady, we had representation from the various the Tappan High School, SOMS, our elementary schools. Special thanks to Jeannie Irizarry, Liz Dudley, Andrea Kay, AJ Walker, Dr. Tessick, and Ms. Casamano. And we had a very interesting agenda. We talked a little bit about social media and the difficulties that some families were experiencing with hybrid learning from the parent perspective. the district parent survey, which had gone out. We've got some very good results from that, and I know that Dr. Kulak will be summing that up for us, just so we can have a better understanding of some of the changes or modifications we might want to make as we move forward. Some of the issues that are facing our PTAs are membership issues. Many of our PTA folks have talked about those, that being problematic, and they've also, and related to that, their fundraising efforts as well. So the economics, of the economy are impacting on them as well. Different activities looking to connect students without screen time. I think that parents are very much aware that we want to find other opportunities for kids to play and to participate and become socially engaged without doing so on a computer. At the high school, they're not sure what project graduation is going to look like this year, but we're going to continue to have that conversation. I'm sure we'll figure out based on that amazing performance we pulled off last year with with our graduation ceremony. I'm hopeful that we'll be as successful this year in providing a very nice experience for our seniors. And they're also looking for students who might be eligible or interested in receiving some senior scholarships. And then our red and white folks talked a little bit about spirit wear, and the print calendar was a big topic with PTA, and I'm sure there are many people who are split. I'm not going to name anybody by name. I know that there are certain board members who have a preference one way or the other. I think you guys, as a board, might even be split on that as well. But I think that we're looking at something going forward, maybe returning to a paper calendar, but something a little less, maybe that's something a little bit more refrigerator worthy. I think most of us feel that the paper calendar is still very useful in terms of keeping track as an organizational tool. So we'll continue to kind of develop that, but I think that that's something that families want to see. That was the general consensus. They're very pleased with the work of the Family Engagement Center, their ability, particularly as it related to collecting donations from staff for candy, and the Halloween effort that they had made, as well as the food pantry and collecting of donations, and looking at that food pantry as a means to sort of creating some cohesion within our community with a variety of stakeholder groups. I don't think that any of you have said this, stated this publicly. I do know that we have at least two board members who are actively participating through volunteer work in the food pantry, as well as I think there are probably more than two of you. I think that each of you has made a commitment in your own way towards making that successful and understanding that sense of public service as an extension of your work on the school board. And I just want to say thank you for that. And I will say I did hear from Mr. Henry last week, and this food pantry is providing a nice vehicle for students who may have lost opportunities for other opportunities for community service as sort of a suitable alternative for what they were going to do, but now they can't. So one door closes and another one opens, and I think that I want to say thank you to AJ Walker and Dr. Kessick for their work there. I did have an opportunity to let folks know that the board really wants the PTA to continue their involvement, to stay engaged, even though they can't necessarily be online with us on the Zoom. But we're going to keep these communications coming, and that we certainly, the Board of Education really is actively seeking their involvement in Board of Education meetings, as well as other initiatives that we may be engaged in throughout the course of the year. And then we did talk a little bit about some mental health issues. People are acting over the edge. People are very stressed out with a variety of, although the election we're hoping is hopefully behind us. They felt that there was a lot of environmental issues that between the election and the pandemic, the economy, and a lot of things that are really contributing to some very stressful situations for families. And we as a school district want to be seen as, as a beacon to families who may need that support. So we're very hopeful that that they will see us as such, and I'm confident that they do. And again, that will conclude my update from the PTA, and I want to say thank you very much to them for all their support in these trying times. Let's see. So I think that's my last topic under superintendent's report. It is. So with that, Mr. Jacobs, I'll turn it back over to you. This concludes the superintendent's report pending your questions.
No, I don't have any questions. Do any of the board members have questions of Dr. Pritchard? No.
For me.
So the next item on the agenda is basically board of member committee reports. I know there was a audit committee, finance council meeting that was postponed. Ms. Lee, there was a Rockland County School Board meeting. You want to talk briefly about that, and then if you had any other meetings?
Yeah, sure. So first on the Rockland County School Board, the efforts right now are focused on the legislative meeting. And just as a heads up, that it typically happens in the beginning of December, but it's decided to push out to the beginning of January, pending the election results. So it looks like we're going to have some new legislators representing, the 9 districts that cover the Rockland County School Board. So we'll wait for that. Really, the focus will be on advocacy, on the impact that all the districts are seeing from COVID, the increased costs due to COVID, and the impact to programs and so forth, and budgets, particularly around what the state has told us, the cuts that they're going to make. So we're going to be collecting a lot of information from all the different districts to have a collective presentation made to the legislators. So invitation is going to go out to our state senator, our state assembly, and as well as the invitation is going to go out to our new federal U.S. congressman. So the second thing about the committee is the policy meeting. So we did have a policy committee discussion yesterday. We covered on 3 policies. One that is on the agenda today for the second reading, policy 8635, the information and data privacy security breach and notification. There was, Mrs. Coster, there was some follow-up, or is there any changes that we're going to be proposing?
No, not this evening. We had Mr. Brady took another look at the policy 8635. And Mr. Brady, correct me if I'm wrong, we worked very closely with Julie Shaw. And so a question came up as to whether our instructional use of different tech tools was properly covered within the confines of the policy. And it has been addressed, especially when it comes to third-party providers. Mr. Brady, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. If you really look at the language in that policy, it really has to do with student data privacy, which really is instructional. However, it does address staff privacy as well. The concern is once you start splitting off an instructional from administrative from operational data, you sort of dilute really what the intent is. We want to protect all data. So we would recommend and suggest that we keep it as is and not change the wording that's there.
Okay. So at the last meeting, at the last board meeting, we had asked if there were any comments or changes. I didn't, and to send them to me. I didn't receive any, so I wasn't sure whether there were going to be any questions or whether we would move from that last week, first reading to a second reading and then approval. So I will wait till that's the next item on the agenda, but that was one of the questions that came out of the policy committee. The other two policies, 8636, which is social media, and 1130, which is media relations, was an opportunity to take a look at those policies. They are about 7-8 years old. So we wanted to see, especially with the increased use of communication electronically and the use of social media, what we can do to whether there was any additions there or changes that needed to be made to kind of bring it up to 2020, 2021. So there will be some modifications, improvements that we're going to be proposing, and you should see that in a subsequent board report to take a look at for comment. That's it. Anything else, Kara, that I may have missed? No.
Dr. Stefano, do you have any committee meetings? You're muted.
There was a curriculum council meeting this week. I was not able to make it though. So I don't know if Dr. Kulat wants to speak to that. Put you on the spot.
Dr. Kulak, we don't hear you.
I think Dr. Kulat may be experiencing some technical difficulties, but I think he's probably going to include a course on American Sign Language next year. We have any.
You know, there
Body
was
language, he can hear us.
there was an extensive briefing of the meeting in the board report.
Okay, all right, so if any board members have questions, they'll refer their questions to you or to Dr. Pritchard, and he'll forward it along. Mr. Henry, do you have any committee reports?
Facilities committee, we've been meeting, it seems like every other week. And the most recent meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about HVAC for all the schools. One of the key things being that we didn't want to spend good money on things that we just recently implemented. So, and we also put a focus on, we don't want to lose track of spending that we're going to do this summer and next summer while we're still doing long range planning.
Okay. All right. Does any board member have any other committee reports, or are we okay to move forward? Okay. All right. So going back to what Ms. Lee had to say regarding the third reading of policy 8635, I'm going to read and ask for a motion, to waive the third reading. If there's any board member that, is uncomfortable with waiving the third reading, there's, no harm to, push the third reading off to the next board meeting and adopt it at the next board meeting after the third reading. So, can I have a motion to waive the third reading and adoption of policy 8635, information and data privacy, security, and breach and notification if
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I should have said, is there any discussion before all in favor, but is there anybody just wants to discuss anything?
Not here.
All right. All right. That takes care of that. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items 6 through 10 and the addendum to the superintendent's office consent agenda?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Not here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any new business?
None here.
Hearing and seeing no new business, I would wish everybody on the conference call and those that choose to listen to the presentation to have a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. I just request that during your Thanksgiving celebrations and gatherings, that you bear in mind the recommendations of the various officials in terms of limiting the gatherings and, truly think about the potential consequences of your individual choices. We're here to provide an education to our students. We have a tremendous staff that is dedicated and committed to either providing the education or supporting the education. And, I'll speak, collectively that we all need everybody's help. We can only control what happens within the four walls of the building. And we've been very successful in terms of limiting any transmission during the school hours. The issues that we've been confronted with and the requirements of quarantining or ultimately closing down buildings and having to go to remote relate to the consequences of people's decisions outside the school district operating hours. So I hope everybody can enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday. But again, I just hope everybody bears in mind the potential consequences of their decisions to the community and the district as a whole. So with that, can I have a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
good
Board
night.
of Education. Thank you, everyone at home. Thanks, Edmonds. Nice job tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Happy
Good night.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy
Be safe.
Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.
Be safe and healthy.